It's leg day. Finished this just a couple days ago. It's been so long in the making. He's been on his legs and driving around, but this is the first time that the legs have been finished. So, things I did this year: center hub and the ring around it, the buttons, the pneumatic, painted the inside area of the horseshoe in those areas, painted the inside of the horseshoe all the way around the inside, painted the booster covers blue, finished, sanded, finished, and painted the leg struts. After a month of letting the blue and clear coat dry and cure for the booster covers, I masked off the blue and sprayed the metallic paint onto a piece of cardboard, used a brush, small painting brush, and hand painted all of the silver details. Also did all of the greebles under the shoulders, also painting the inside pocket metallic. It's went quicker than I thought. And let's see, today is Monday. Friday morning, I glued the last of the under shoulder greebles in place. And so I will put a link to Jason Charlton's leg video. He goes over in much better detail how everything is assembled. This is primarily just to show that I've finally got the legs done, which is amazing. My next trick is to fix the damage from my previous video to the bottom of R2 so I can actually get him assembled again. So there's only a few things I wanted to discuss about this that isn't already covered in detail in Jason's video. One is the leg strut piece. This is the version, yeah, of course it's going to be not a one-handed take it out after I put it in. This is not glued in. Let me go around it here. Just like in Jason's video, this has this like basically fin on the bottom. It prints with that bottom on the print bed, and it prints up in this direction in one piece. And I painted this blue, the same reason as Jason goes over. He did the same thing, that this is blue. So when the booster cover is over, you just see the strut, you see the booster cover, and then it just kind of fades into darkness in this area. You don't see the white of the leg that used to be there, because this was painted white with the rest of the leg. Now I did see a reference photo from an actual screen-used R2, and I believe that you can actually see the white inside there on the screen-used ones. So it's a design choice. I'm not going to say if it's screen accurate or not, because as everybody knows, there are a ton of different R2s from the ton of different movies with differences in details on pretty much all of them, even the same one in the same movie. So it's I guess a style choice to do it that way, but I really like the look where even from this close, just a couple inches, you see the metallic leg strut, but then it just goes into darkness and you don't see any white of the leg behind. I do like the way that that turned out. The other thing is Go back over to here. In Jason's video, he talked about painting this black. And I saw his video before I was at the stage of assembling my leg. So I went ahead and I painted it black on mine, and I think it works great. Again, it's a style choice where you can see here, or can't see here, around the gaps between the metallic plate here and these parts. It's now, I believe I used just a satin black, and I didn't even bother sanding, filler, smoothing out, because the only place that you can see is just, you know, what is that, less than 1/8 of an inch around the parts, and then the little cutouts. But again, I really like the way that looks. It just kind of makes it just go into darkness instead of being white like the leg and ankle that kind of draws your eye to it. Now it's just, you don't even notice it because it's black. It just kind of isn't there, as opposed to being a white, bright white around the metallic and the blue. The other point I wanted to bring up are these parts here, which again, this is probably not a one-handed removal because it barely fits in. This is the version, the one that Jason printed and the one that I printed, from the Mark II Michael Baddeley files. And as I said, it's one piece, printing with this part on the bed, and it prints up in this direction. So it's got this big thick fin that you don't see, and then right here there's a plug, a little plastic cylinder that you print that glues into this piece and glues into the leg, and another one that's a little bit wider that goes up here. Now, like I said, mine isn't glued in. It's holding in there fine because of this. This piece goes behind this metal plate, so it's not flush with this metal plate when it's in place. It's actually below it, so that helps make it so it's not going to come out unless you kind of maneuver it and pull it as you're taking it out. And the same thing with putting it in is a little bit of a process. You just have to kind of line up the two pegs that are in this piece and the bottom, and get the bottom in first, and then get the two pins to go in, two pegs to go in. So it worked fine. It wasn't too much of a pain in the neck to get ready for paint. Obviously the worst part is the top of this, because the way it's printing, when it comes to the top, it's not quite rounded, so you have to spend some time getting it to look rounded and not have like a kind of a flat top that it tends to get on a FDM 3D printer. These are not printed on a resin printer. And then the other part is, of course, sanding these small indentation areas and deciding how much, you know, time you want to spend, how good they have to look as far as removing the layer lines. I'm really happy with how mine look. I mean, again, from this close, I'm just starting to see, you can kind of see maybe a little bit of areas in here that were really hard to get to, that aren't, still show a bit of layer lines or built up filler material. But just from like that far away, it looks absolutely fantastic, I think. So my point is, there's a different file that I didn't even know existed for this piece in the Mark III Michael Baddeley R2D2 files. And instead of this large fin, he's sliced it in half, and it only has 2 pegs that come out of it that slot in here. So you can use, I'm guessing, this is a Mark II leg strut, and I oh geez, it's been so long now I'm starting to lose my mind. I think this is a version 3 leg, but many parts of the version 2 and 3 legs are interchangeable. So I believe that you can use this print, or you can use the one in the Mark III files as well. It's just a different construction. Instead of being one piece, it's two pieces sliced down the center, and so it will print from here on the bed, and then it prints this way, and then you glue them together, and then you've got a seam to deal with. But it also would probably help you get these fine areas, because instead of having this whole round area to get at, if it's cut in half, you only have to get your sandpaper into half of the surface amount and then glue the two parts together, and then you just file any glue that comes out, or fill any gaps to hide the seam. So not sure on finishing which one would be easier to finish, and I think they would both look the same in the Droid. If you do like I did and Jason did, and just like roughly mask this off and paint it, it helps. You probably don't even need to do that. The only difference would be you might see a little bit of silver if you're looking through the booster cover, but even then it might be dark enough that you wouldn't. But I wanted to mention that I didn't even realize until just last week that the Mark III version of this strut is a two-piece that doesn't have the fin on the bottom, so you wouldn't have to paint the fin, but you would have two pieces that you have to glue. And so finishing may be easier because you could finish each part separately, get it really smooth, and then glue them together, and then just fix the seam, and that might be an easier way to make it smooth than if you do this version from the Mark II files. But I'm pretty sure that they are completely interchangeable, because I don't think Michael Baddeley changed the location of these holes for the pins. That would be kind of a silly thing to do. So throwing that out there, because I didn't notice until it was too late that there was that version, so I just kept going with mine when I found that out. Again, horseshoes. I hadn't painted this silver trim until this year. I decided to go with painting this silver all the way around. Again, that's something that if you look at the reference photos, that's a style choice. Some people just leave it white. Some people paint the indentations white. Some people paint the parts that extrude white. Mine has a little different texture down the middle because honestly I forgot to sand. I just sprayed right over my white paint and forgot to sand to give the paint a little bit more area to grab. So it does have a slightly different texture, which I actually like. Again, just a style choice. It draws the eye to just an extra little detail. And the same thing with these pockets, which I had a video on, where I wanted them to be metallic, but not the same bright metallic as these greebles that go in them. So I painted them with the same bright metallic, and then I went over that with a satin clear afterwards, which takes metallic paints and makes them not metallic anymore, basically. So all that detail work was done this year. Before that, these were just plain white, and these greebles were just in 3D printed status and hadn't had any paint applied or sanding or any finishing until this year. And these have been primered for a couple years, but I was afraid to paint them because I didn't want to mess them up. Yes, there's a couple spots where the paint is too thick. The finish is not completely uniform. There's a couple little pieces of dust in there, but again, hand distance away, I think they look fantastic. I am extremely happy with them. I was afraid that I was going to screw it up to the point where I had to sand everything off and redo it, and that is not the case, luckily. So again, this is all in Jason's video, but I don't know if I can do this aiming the camera and doing this at the same time. Just kind of carefully put it in there, and there's a peg here and here that go into the booster cover. And then the booster cover has a magnet up here to attach it. And again, this piece here, it might wiggle a bit because it's not glued in, but it's not coming out because this metal plate, it's behind there and the posts are in there. So again, I might glue that. I might not. I probably should, just so it doesn't wiggle around. These parts, I couldn't really see if you're supposed to glue these parts together. This ring is just a flat ring, and then this shoulder detail, shoulder hub, not to be confused with the shoulder hub that you actually bolt the legs to R2 with. This shoulder hub greeble is a separate piece, and it has a lip around the end, so you just slide this on top of this shoulder hub. And I didn't know if you were supposed to glue those or not. I did, and I think that's what you need to do, because if you don't, there's nothing to hold this piece in. It doesn't stick out flush for the body to hold it in. So you'll see these 3 notches. There's a piece that you can print that's in the files that goes in there and will hold this shoulder hub in place so it doesn't come out this direction. But you don't need to print that if you just glue this to the ring. And I won't take it out now to show you because now I've slotted this thing back in. But you can see the booster cover actually covers that ring a bit, which helps hold it in place, because there's paint and primer layers on the leg and on this ring. This ring is in really tight right now. So even though it's got 3 screws that you can use to hold it in place, right now this thing isn't going anywhere. Between being trapped by this and just what a tight fit it is. In fact, I went over the outside of this ring with some 220 to sand some of the paint off to get it to go in a little bit easier, but it's still really tight, and I don't think that'll go anywhere even without screws in it. And then this, the horseshoe goes over the top, and it also keeps it from coming out. So gluing that round ring to the shoulder hub, I think, is a good call, because that just makes it one piece. And right now all I have to do is reach behind it and push out on this hub, and it comes out. And then when I put it in, I just press on the outer ring and it goes in. That way I'm not stressing the joint, the epoxy glue between the shoulder hub and the ring, because I'm only pushing on parts that aren't glued, not applying pressure to anything that's gonna make the glue fail. Although I glued all the way around with epoxy, so it's not gonna go anywhere. So there we go. I can't believe it. It's literally been 5 years. I did take 2 years off because I just got so burnt out of spending my entire spring, summer, and fall with decent weather, sanding, filling, spraying, sanding, priming, body filler. But here we are. The legs are done. The body is pretty much done. I've repaired the damage from the fall from my earlier video, and the next step is bringing him out here, putting him on that flat piece of wood with his rear pointing upwards, and I will be removing the damaged area from the bottom to fill it with epoxy to make it strong enough that I can actually put the skirt back on and the legs back on, and then I will have an R2 that will be pretty much visually complete as far as the body goes. I still have to do an entire new dome, and I have not printed the arms, the claw arm and the interface arm that will come out when the doors, the long side bread pan doors open. Never even got around to printing those, even though I've got the mechanical parts to make them actuate in place. So just as he's standing there, visually, his body will be finished. It will just be his dome, and then it's a bunch of electronics work, and including getting the servos in and wiring everything up to be remotely controlled. And I will stop this video, and I brought a scale out. Somebody at work, I brought one of these to work this weekend just to show people what I've been blabbing on about. And somebody asked me how much the legs weigh, and I'm like, I have no idea. So I've got a scale, and I will stop this video. I will put a scale down on that piece of MDF, and I will put the leg on it and tag that onto this video. Okay, there we go. It's upside down, but it is 13.5 pounds. So 13.5 pounds, so that's 27 pounds for the two legs, just in case anybody's curious.